Call the Finance Personnel Committee meeting to order. It's Wednesday, September 13th, 2023, and at 7:05 p.m. Myself, Mike Cappers is present.
Donnie Kern, present.
And Chris Dubeck present as well.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move to bring 7A unfinished business of discussion, possible recommendation both for GPS model policy village and vehicles. We have Trey on Zoom for Verizon Connect. He'd like to give a presentation if we can get that agenda item brought to the forefront. So
Chris, would you second that?
I'll do, second that.
Okay, first and second. Let's do that then.
Okay, well, thanks for having me. Hopefully your folks' evening's going good here. So we'll bust right into it. So I'm going to share my screen if that's okay with you folks. Just give me 1 second. It says the host has disabled participant screen sharing.
Yep, go ahead and just uncheck that.
Okay, perfect. All right. Okay, so I won't be able to see you while I have this screen shared. So if there is anything that I need to stop for, please give me a holler and I'll do so. So before we bust in here a little bit more specifically with the ins and outs of the system, Donnie and I had spoke over the last couple weeks here about, what you folks were looking for. Just want to ask a couple more questions just to clarify a few things. So correct me if I'm wrong, there is no current system being used for in any department right now. Is that correct?
that's correct.
The
Okay.
police,
Well, police, but they'd be on a separate thing than this, right?
right,
I mean, it's not
but he said any department.
not governed by
There
the village, right?
Oh. Never mind. Never mind.
Would the village be under, would the police be under this same system?
No.
No,
Okay,
they're on their separate system.
okay.
Okay, good to know. Yeah, I know sometimes police and some other emergency folks will be using a CAD system. If that is in question, can certainly speak to them at another time. But for right now, we'll tackle some of the departments that we went over a few weeks ago. So it sounds like what's important to you folks is the ability to obviously see the vehicles in real time, have a complete vehicle history, so that you can go back in time if there was ever a situation in question that you needed to confirm with. Obviously, as we enter the fall and winter months, the ability to stay in contact with employees, plowing roads or doing other things out in the field is important as well. And capturing different data points, mileage, possibly speed alerts, and of course, making sure folks are staying safe from a employee standpoint and from a taxpayer standpoint. Was there anything that I should also know before going into the portal here, just for any examples or concerns that you've had that you need a system for?
I don't think so.
Okay, I like it. Straightforward then. All right, so and then lastly, before we jump in here, keep in mind that this system is both all cloud-based, right? Meaning that Verizon supplies the hardware. That is, it's a little device, probably smaller than my hand, and it will plug in to the OBD2 port of the vehicle. Once again, it's cloud-based, so you folks will log on to the website that you see right now to access the live map and some of the associated features here. Okay, so once you log in.
One thing, Trey, I just wanted to, you and I had talked about that there was a possibility of insurance giving a rebate or something like that, or a discount. And we did check into that, and there was no discounts offered for having this type of stuff. And I think the other thing too that you might want to touch base on is how you are connected with other municipalities in regards to doing this and providing this through the state of Wisconsin. Is that correct?
Yes. Now, I will say, I am fairly new to the role here of managing our fleet customers for Wisconsin. There are not a ton of current customers near you folks, mostly on the east side of Wisconsin. I am not going to be able to divulge the customer names without their approval. However, if some recommendations are necessary at some point in time, that's not something that's an issue. We can certainly reach out to our current customer base and to provide some type of value proposition for you guys going forward. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So as you see here, live map, it's pretty straightforward, forward color coded, right? So you will see the expanded view. Green means that vehicle is moving in motion, vehicle is turned on. Yellow means it is idled. And then red means it is stopped. Left-hand side, you will be able to input all the vehicles, label them 1 through 20 by the individual's names, whatever you'd like. It's pretty straightforward. Okay, so obviously you will be able to zoom in to your respective area, and you will be able to see not just vehicles, but you will also be able to see any assets such as stationary items like trailers, generators, tractors, anything like that. We can also put on the system, so it is not just vehicles. Okay. Now, since we don't have any active vehicles near you folks, I'm going to go down here to our friends in Chicago. So when you're on the live map, there's quite a few different features our customers would like to use, right? So view replay, seeing that trip for that given day and that vehicle's life cycle for that given day. If you need to zoom to that specific viewpoint, see the street view, create what is called a geofence, meaning a perimeter around a specific location. You can all do that from the live map. So, just for an example, if you want to see at the beginning of the day, or excuse me, the next day, what drives your employees were doing the previous day, you'll just right click, do a vehicle history. And as you see here, you will get a very specific breadcrumb trail. And particularly this individual did a lot of trips yesterday. And he's done. Okay, so on the right-hand side here, pretty straightforward, right? You'll see all the ins and outs of where this individual left. And I do want to point out that from a safety overview, it will even give you notifications right here that somebody had gone above the speed limit. Now, why is that important? Well, from a coaching standpoint, our customers know that the more times you let employees know that they are having aggressive driving habits, the more likely that they are to have some situation happen that could hinder their ability to do their job and, of course, damage the vehicle that they're in. So that's one of the many different qualities of the system that are used as a safety tool. Otherwise, the replay that you see right here is pretty straightforward. Of course, as you zoom in a little bit closer, that will get a little bit more granular on exactly where that vehicle was driving throughout that trip. Any questions on the replay or just the live map area so far?
What's the red dots?
The red dots mean that individual has stopped.
And so if there was a stop for a stoplight, that would show up, or is that like a significant stop?
That means he actually turned the ignition off, right?
Okay.
So that vehicle will still show on the live map where that individual stopped. It's not just going to disappear. So for instance, some folks may want to pull idle information as well.
That's great, Trey. Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions? All right, moving right along then. All right, so at the top right here, you'll see a lot of different features and functions. I wouldn't pay attention to the logbook. The logbook won't show up for you folks. That's more for our long haul trucking customers that are required by the DOT to log miles and stop and rest time. So that won't show up for you. I did mention before that in our discussions between me and Donnie that data points were important for you folks. So I'm not going to go through every single one of them. We certainly can, but there's quite a few different reports that you can pull. Specifically, I was told mileage was important for you folks. Was there any type of additional data that you currently collect now through Excel or that you think could be automated through the system?
There's nothing that we currently collect.
Okay. So just for an example, I have a daily report here. So once again, everything is automated. So once you set the settings up, you can have these reports sent to your inbox, multiple individuals' inboxes at any given time throughout the week. So, if you need to have mileage information, you will have a succinct form right here that you can download to your own server or email to other individuals with the individual, the vehicle in question, along with their start and end times, along with different key points such as arrival time and idle duration. Is there anything with
Greg,
the
just a question here.
say that one more
Yeah.
time?
So you were saying for the truckers that they do a log. Is there a system here where like, say the public works guys, stop and work on a fire hydrant or something? Is there a way that they could put their daily log into this system at all, or is that still gonna be separate?
What type of information would you like them to plug in?
Say at 12:03, they stopped, and straightened a sign that was crooked or painted a basketball post or something like that. Is there anything that works with this system and maybe an app on their phone or some way to log what they're doing into the system as well, or no?
Yeah, there's not going to be anywhere for notes. There's nothing that is going to allow them to type any specific information now for, and we'll get to in a sec, for maintenance information, whether you need alerts for upcoming maintenance orders on the vehicles. There is sections in there where you can type in, oil change, checked in the engine light, may need to check on this in a couple of weeks because it, needed something else or whatever the case is. But there's really not a section to log notes for all the little things that come up throughout the day.
Thank you, Greg.
Okay. Any questions on the daily report right now?
No, sir.
Okay. So my next question before I move on from the reports, has your I guess multiple departments, has there been any issues with taxpayers calling in claiming whether it's false or true issues with either aggressive driving from employees, or has there been any accidents that resulted in legal fees and penalties, anything like that? Let's just say over the last 12 months.
Nothing that we're aware of, right?
Okay. I only mention that once again, folks use this as a safety tool, not just as a location tool. So if there ever was a need to pull a report to understand exactly maybe what an individual was doing and how fast they were going, there is a speeding report that will show obviously the driver, the time, and how fast that individual was going based on the posted speed limit, as you can see here on my screen. Okay. So moving it along, right here at the top, once again, the replay section. This is just another area that really hones in on what we already showed you on the live map. But if you just want a little bit more specific view of the replay play tool, once again, you can go to this, click on the vehicle line item in question, and once again, it will give you a full breadcrumb trail along with the start, idle, and stop time for that vehicle, along with any type of speed violation that may have incurred throughout that trip. Does this area make sense? It's all pretty straightforward, I know.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, perfect. All right, So the next part here, this is where we really have been spending a lot of time on with customers. I'd say, I mean, the last year, for whatever reason, I'm not sure if taxpayers are getting more aggressive and more creative, but for whatever reason, there is a significant uptick in accidents and false claims made against government organizations. Our dash cameras that we came out with a couple of years ago use AI capabilities to read driving behavior, to give you alerts on aggressive driving habits, collisions, harsh braking, really anything the system deems unusual. And of course, this is used as an insurance and liability tool if there ever was a he said, she said situation out in the field. Okay, so once again, pretty straightforward information. You can search by the vehicle name or driver name, but not only will the camera save the video, it's actually going to pull specific clips from that trip that the system deemed unusual and something that the customer needs to see. So it's going to classify it from a critical, major, or moderate designation. And then from there, it will analyze the video and from harsh braking, harsh driving event, like a hard acceleration or a harsh braking, driver facing event, meaning somebody's eating food, talking on their phone, smoking a cigarette, whatever the case is, and then road facing, tailgating, for whatever reason, a pedestrian hops out in front of the vehicle and neither party sees, it will categorize that as well. And then it will give you the option to save and store these videos here. So all these folks that you're seeing right here are my colleagues. So hopefully they're not doing anything too egregious. And you do have the option to just have a forward camera, not an in-cab camera, in case there are some issues with the in-cab camera. So as you see here, forward-facing view is about 175 degrees. This individual looks like he's talking on his phone. He's got earphones in. He's got a dog in the background. He's smoking something. So this video has been analyzed to show that obviously this person is smoking. And of course, at the top here, you have the option to download. I do want to highlight that it expires after 90 days. Now, the difference here is two things. The camera hardware actually will adhere with an adhesive to the center console on the inside of the windshield of the vehicle. That comes with a standard 256 SD gigabyte card, which accounts for 170 hours of storage. The system itself only will store a certain amount of videos for 90 days before it deletes the oldest video. So I always suggest, once you see something that maybe is flagged, if you think it may come back at all, I would download those videos to your own server, but you can always reach out to Verizon if there was a scenario where you needed an entire trip footage that it has not been previously stored and saved. So with that being said, from your experience and your roles, we're talking about multiple different departments. Some have snow plows, some are emergency vehicles. Folks are doing different things. How would the video either help employees that are accused of something inaccurate, or how may that help legal situations that you may find going on?
Well, I'm all for it. I have dash cams in my vehicles, but cheap insurance as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. And that's really what it's for, right? I don't think
that the video is not just on the, is there one for possibly like behind the drivers too, like on plow trucks? How would that, if somebody, I think this one shows the front and the back, right? But is there one for a plow? How would it be for a plow truck?
So what you're seeing right here is a dual camera. We have the option to do the dual camera right forward facing, then in cab facing. And then you also have the option to just do a forward facing. It is on the roadmap right now from our product team, according to them, in July, that we will come out with some type of rear facing camera. But at this juncture, there is no set timeline for that. Folks will use this on their snow plows because obviously, whether that plow, may or may not hit a vehicle when doing its job, or as you say, some folks may call in to say and ask when their street is going to be plowed. It'll still show up as an alert if there was a collision or any of those classifications that I said earlier. Harsh braking, road facing, in cab driver issues, stuff like that. Does that answer your question, or were you looking for something different?
Well, it answers my question that you don't have one. right
Yeah,
now.
no.
The other thing, is this software or anything like you were saying compatible with other apps? Like we just had an app designed for maintenance and task management. Is it something that could be compatible or written into that where, for, like you said, an individual plowing snow, that somebody could look on that app and be able to determine whether or not the plow is in that area or going to be in that area soon?
Okay, so two things. I have some two things on this. So, and I don't have my solutions engineer on the call here. He wasn't able to make it today. So if we need further clarification, he's more than happy to provide some more information here. But we have an open API with our system, right? So essentially, if the company that you are just mentioning allows our system to piggyback off their system, those systems can talk to each other. Now that's a conversation that really you would have to have with that company. From there, like I said, we have an open API, and that's something that we can discuss with our SE team. The second part of this is we actually work with a company called Snowpaths. They are an exclusive partner for just Verizon, and they focus just on customers with snowplows. And they also have capabilities for the off season for trash removal and street cleaning. So their system integrates with ours to push the data to show roads that are just the status of the roads being plowed, so that you have an accurate idea of when folks had plowed the roads, how much is left, how much salt has been dumped. It's a really clean, really nice system that obviously is pretty essential when you get into the winter months.
Hey, Trey, just a quick question. How does it track how much salt is dumped?
That is a question for the Snowpaths individuals. I do not know that answer.
That's just really interesting to me, so thank you.
But I'll take that and I'll get back with you. I would assume it has to do with probably the power takeoff maybe module, because I know like for a tow, it'll register when our towing customers utilize the PTO function. So I would assume it might be something similar to that, but I'll clarify.
Thank you.
And of course, if that is something that you'd like to explore more here, we can, of course, set another time for my my colleague at Snowpaths to run through their platform. What else? Okay.
Coming to me?
No, nothing from us.
I think we're good.
Hey, sometimes I need to let everybody have a couple minutes. I know sometimes I gotta take a sec to think of good questions, so.
I just got one question on it. I know you got cameras options, but you also have non-camera options?
Yeah, so if you don't need any dash cameras, and I was gonna go over that later with the pricing, you don't have to get the whole system. That's just the complete package, right? Dual facing camera, you get the data, you get the hardware, you get the software, all for a bundle package. But if you don't want the cameras, we have everything but cameras if you need it. And you can mix and match, do different things like that.
Okay.
So another couple tools that folks use. Are you familiar with geofencing?
Yes.
We do that now, I think, we. The geofencing.
Yeah. Okay. And we can help input the data that you already have for geofencing in here. So, I'll go over it really quick since you already know. Obviously, you'll be able to draw your geofence, self-draw or whatever the case is around your given areas. You can label those. You can set alerts for those as well. What's nice about some updates we've just made is the system's actually going to give you suggested geofencing. So if you're going to places multiple times throughout the year, it's going to give you a ton of geofences that the system says, hey, maybe you should just, put a box around this area on the live map. Now, sometimes I will say that maybe get some folks in trouble. I've had plenty of customers say, hey, this suggested geofence showed my guys going to the casino, going to McDonald's too much, hanging out at Home Depot. So I'll leave it there. Any questions on the geofencing?
Not for me.
Okay. Couple last things, going back to the safety part of the system is we do have plenty of different alerts. So, the system reads the vehicle's diagnostics essentially and just displays it in the software package, right? But you can get alerts for EVs if you end up buying any EVs going forward. If you need alerts on diagnostic trouble codes, geofencing alerts, idling. I know you mentioned that earlier. So, from a cost perspective, if you just want folks, even in the wintertime, to just cut down on the idling, you have a bird's eye view of all the employees that, maybe are keeping the vehicles on a little bit too long. Because honestly, throughout the year, these vehicles get beat up probably pretty good. So anything you guys can do probably to mitigate some of those issues. The excessive idling is obviously one of those steps. So, pretty straightforward. If you want to get a speed alert, you can do the entire fleet or sections of the fleet. We start at anything over 15, you'll get an alert for, but you obviously can change that. Look, a lot of us probably speed every once in a while. So if you don't want to do it every single time, you can do it maybe the fourth time they have a speed violation or whatever the case is. And then just like all the other reports and alerts, you can set it to notify yourself, multiple employees, the employee driving themselves. And then of course the trigger throughout the week that you'd like, right? Any questions on the alerts section?
Okay.
Well, we're a pretty small community here and we're only talking about maybe 6 trucks and, a couple of them have plows on them and then also a plow truck, so I mean, at the most we'd be looking at, unless we were going to be tracking our lawns and what our lawnmowers and what lawns they're cutting grass at, which, I don't know how how that would all lay out, but, those kind of things. Do you have other communities of that size that are looking at it? Because, I don't know what the total cost would be on something like that, but it would be a significant, increase in our, on our budget, to put that kind of tracking on all those vehicles and items.
Yeah, I used to work in our SMB office for-profit customers, and obviously now I'm in our Gov team. I manage about 4 different states, Wisconsin, West Virginia, Iowa, and Northern Michigan. So, we range from, folks that have 2 vehicles in some more rural areas, even with lower cell reception, to folks in, big metropolitan areas with hundreds of vehicles. I think what's nice about what Verizon's done with the system is giving you a lot of different tools to work with. To be honest, most of my customers use it just as a insurance and liability tool. If somebody gets in an accident, you have immediate knowledge of what happened. You go to the cameras and you can see a dot on the map most places, but you have a dash camera that sees what happened with that situation. You have it right there.
So it's not really about Big Brother wanting to see where everybody's going and micromanaging, more as a a safety / coaching / insurance for the municipality, right?
Yeah, we just had the American Public Works conference that I came out to San Diego for a week ago. And I just think across the board that's what it is, right? Nobody's sitting around staring at this screen all day. That's not what it's for. It's for you to see vehicle activity or maybe see the live map. And then obviously if you need a report here and there, pull it and then see what happened if there was ever a situation that happened out in the field. And it is surprising that the insurance folks didn't have more information about folks with cameras. I would say a good amount of the customers that have utilized the cameras have some type of benefit from the insurance side. But again, that's not my area. So I'm not gonna say that they should or shouldn't have something for you there.
Okay.
And that's pretty much the system. I know you mentioned some capabilities for maintenance that you had through another platform, but this will also save maintenance information, past service information, and future upcoming service orders can give you an alert to your cell phone or your email. And then, of course, back in the reports, you'll be able to see, there's nothing filled in here because these are my colleagues' vehicles, but you'll be able to see exactly what was done to that vehicle, the date, the next time you have to pull that off the road, so that everybody's kind of on the same page. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So next part, pricing, most important thing here. So let me pull something up. Can you still see my screen? You should see some hardware in front of your screen.
Yep.
Okay. So this is the hardware that you'd get. The VTU is the little box that I was explaining on that plugs in the OBD2 port. If you have something that's used in the OBD2, we can actually give you a Y cable, so that will just be pushed back and secured with some zip ties, and then you still have access to the OBD2. I know some fire and police offices need to use that for their MDCs and other things like that. But other than that, it's pretty straightforward. It's a little black box, so it won't obscure the driver's feet or anything like that. And then, of course, as I mentioned before,
Any municipalities that have removed them?
Say that one more time.
You ever heard of any municipalities or anybody that has had them removed, had employees just pull the box, unplug them? If they were in an area and didn't want to be tracked?
So you'll get an alert immediately if they do so. And two, one, they're zip tied. I really don't have many folks that say that they've had an employee rip it out, because you just get an alert right away that says, you get a text, you'll get an email saying somebody took it out. And obviously over time, I just think people stop caring or remembering that they're in there anyway, because it's underneath, the dash obviously pushed back underneath your feet, so you're not really thinking about it. Probably when you're driving. Over time, they probably just stop thinking about it.
Okay.
And then, as you see right here, the camera that I mentioned earlier would adhere to the inside of the windshield. and then the cord just funnels through and connects that way. So nothing's obscuring the driver at all. So price wise, so we work off 2 different government buying contracts. Both you can go through. It's just mainly about how you want to get this installed. So there is no setup fee. There's no hardware fee. However, there could be an install fee if you want it professionally done. So Sourcewell is one of our government buying contracts. Sourcewell for everything is $52.10 per vehicle, paid monthly for a 12-month contract, and then it goes month to month. Now, I recommend, say it again.
That's cameras and tracker, right?
Yes, sir. Hardware, software, network, everything is included. No cost for the hardware. $52.10 per vehicle, 12-month contract, month to month afterwards.
Professional setup fees, you were saying, would be?
Yes. Yes. So if you want us to take care of it, Verizon has third-party install teams that'll come to you. You'll schedule that with our install team. They'll come to you during pretty much any business hours that you want, and they'll do it for you for no charge. We can also send the units to you if you feel like you can do the install. Now, I recommend Sourcewell because you can get the professional install with no charge on it.
So you have to be a member of Sourcewell in order to get that?
Yep. So it's and I'll send it in a recap email, or I might have even sent this to you before, but it's a free sign up. Probably takes a couple days to get a Sourcewell ID number, and it just allows me to give you that pricing. Sourcewell has agreed upon pricing between the state and them for government folks looking at telematic solutions. Okay, so that's Sourcewell. So the next one is GSA. Are you familiar with GSA?
No.
Okay, so GSA is just really for any government organization. A town, village, state, federal. That's something that you already qualify for. You don't need to sign up on anything like that. Typically, finance may provide a purchase order. Otherwise, we would just create a purchase order. But GSA is a little bit cheaper than Sourcewell. However, it mainly makes the customer do a self-install. If you want it professionally installed, I believe it's $80 per vehicle for pro install. But again, it's at a cheaper price point. So at that price point, let's see. So that price point, you're looking at $43.40 per vehicle, once again, for a 12-month contract.
How often does this equipment need to be upgraded once it's installed? I know my cell phone, I found out, only had a shelf life of about 5 years, and then it was outdated, obsolete, and could not be upgraded, or I needed to upgrade. Is there something like that with this type of equipment as well?
Yeah, so we actually just transitioned. I'm probably not 100% of our customers yet, but over the last year, we transitioned from 3G, 4G to 5G, right? For obviously free upgrades for those customers. There's a lifetime warranty with these units and hardware. So if obviously something happens to them, you just reach out to our support team and we'd send you some new hardware. And then software just will manually update when we have software updates available. And again, I'll write all this down in an email, Donnie, and I'll send it off to you because I know you're all writing some stuff down, but I know I'm giving you a ton of info here.
Right. You also have asset tracking?
Yep. So we can do powered and non-powered asset trackers. Those will be cheaper than obviously the VTUs. So depending on the equipment, The asset trackers will be either $9.50 or $10.50. Once again,
And-
per asset paid monthly
So we
for
got-
12 months. contract.
So we got two lawnmowers. If we wanted to track them, we could still do it through the same, what you just showed us here, except it would just show us, it wouldn't show us what they're doing. It would just show where they're at.
Correct.
And how much was that for that feature?
You said 950 and 1050, but that ain't what the email said here.
No,
The email says 895 and 1095, so.
Yeah, so that's gonna be, so what I just rattled off was Sourcewell. The other prices will be GSA.
So what's a non-powered asset? Would that be, like, something that doesn't own a battery?
Correct.
that's right. Okay.
I don't have any other questions. Do you guys? I brought him to the table for a discussion on this, so.
I like it. I don't think I have any other questions.
Is there an additional charge for that Snowcats app that you were mentioning?
Yes, so yes, Snowpaths, as I mentioned before, is a sole partner with Verizon Connect. However, they have their own setup or just month to month costs that they would discuss that with you. I to be honest, I don't know what that would be from their side of things. Obviously once we sign up with if you sign up with Verizon Connect, we would obviously get you all set up, hardware, software, all that good stuff. And then we would do the integration with Snowpath so that you all see everything on one platform.
We're good.
I'm good. I have no other question.
Thank you very much for your time, Trey.
Thank you.
Yep, fantastic. Donnie, I will send you a recap email shortly after this meeting. And then when would you like me to give you a follow-up call here?
I would say, let me reply to you in the email on that, because it looks like we're gonna, if anything comes out of this meeting, it'll have to go to a full board for any kind of further action.
Okay. Well, fantastic. If you folks think of anything other questions like that, I know I'm going to get back with you folks about how the salt is registered from the Snowpath side of things. But other than that, if you have questions, please let me know. Thank you for letting me present, and we'll talk to you folks soon.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Trey.
Have a good night. Bye.
You too.
Anybody want to entertain a motion for this, or do we want to get more information on what exactly vehicles we would like to look at?
Well, it's in that, in the packet here, there's got a list of the vehicles from Bob. And some of these, I kind of reviewed with him, some of these are going up for, are going to be, up for sale because they're obsolete. We just talked about that at a public works meeting, but right now, what I asked was, what do we have? And he says we have 6 trucks. And, you got, snowplow, obviously the Wheelcat and Bob Toolcat are not something that are gonna need, cameras. And if that's the route, if the route you wanna go is, hey, we'd like to do that, but just at those numbers here, we're looking at, a budget number that we'd have to put in for next year if that was something that we were gonna do, about, up to upwards of the tune of about $3,900, get all 6 vehicles and one loader. And I was also looking at like the sweeper too, for tracking sweeping. I didn't even think about that as far as, knowing what routes were swept and stuff like that.
Right. I think I do like the idea of having the Toolcat staff that gets used in the winter more than anything, and if we're hitting mailboxes or lawns or something like that, if people are saying we are, then there's a record of it.
But right now, we don't have that in our budget.
Correct.
So if that was something to go into it, that obviously would have to be figured out as a $4,000 expense on an annual minimum. If we were to do all of them, if you were to take some of that back, I don't know what your thoughts are on that, or what the committee's, thoughts
Would you
are.
like to maybe whittle down the list a little more and refine it, and then we can work
Well,
on that?
I'm open to I'm more listening to what you guys are at, as far as, here's what we'd like to, because it's really gonna come to a budget item.
Right,
And we're at the perfect time to discuss it now, being in September.
right. I'm hesitant to install this on all of them. I'd rather, try it out on a couple of the most heavily used vehicles, you know what I mean? There's gonna be some that just, it's not gonna be necessary, especially the older vehicles that are, kind of beat up and not necessarily used as much.
Right, so if, like you said, 6 vehicles are in use right now,
Right.
every day. Is that, some might sit for a day, but I mean, 6 are, out for possible use on a daily basis.
So the 6 regular trucks, and then how many plow trucks are out?
Well, then you got a plow truck, right, and then you got a loader. You got the cat wheel loader and the Bob tool cat, that's different, so those 2, and then you also got a sweeper.
Well, the sweeper
And this,
probably
but
doesn't
the
get
one thing
used
I didn't talk about too, is the sweeper, going to be something that, can we turn these on, turn them off, or I know he said a 12-month contract. But that after that contract, if it's month to month, if you could turn it on, turn it off, but I don't know if you guys wanna do the lawnmowers. I really am up to listening to what we're at here, if we're gonna do this, if it makes sense for us to do it. And what that cost is gonna be integrated into our budget.
And I think I'm kind of with Chris here, but, do the 6 trucks and the couple of plow trucks and start there. And then, look at next year, like the other stuff, that lawnmowers and everything, just for the asset protection part of it. After we, see how much it gets used, and, Bob's tracking his guys, Bob and Jim are tracking their guys with it, and how it's being utilized.
Was it 53? Must we install them ourselves?
Yeah, I would go into the GSA, where it's 4340, but it doesn't sound like they're difficult to install.
Well, this is substantially cheaper than
Source
Nextract that I was looking at. That's why I brought these guys to the table. We can obviously check out and see if there's other asset tracking systems that are more in line with our budget too, when I did this, I talked to this guy and he said, oh, I got this presentation. I said, you don't want to show it to me. You're gonna have to show it to all of us. So that's why we had this tonight. So I guess what I'm saying is that we don't have to act on this per se today, is that we can also look at other things that's come in line, but this gives us a ballpark number of, roughly, if we were to do all 6 and, the snowplow, the loader and such, we'd be looking at probably about 4,000 annual to have this. Now, if we can find something half of that cost, is that something that we want to recommend putting into the budget? I'm in favor of having this because of this is the kind of the norm of what we're getting into now, for people is not necessarily Big Brother looking over you, but more of had that happened, let's go see what happened, and it's more of protection, and for the taxpayers as well as the employees.
Correct.
I couldn't, not saying it's gonna happen, I would hate to see a false claim being made against our guys and not having something like this to back them up.
Do we want to, table it till, our next meeting and see if there's any other options or anything?
Was this something that the committee feels that we need to proceed with?
I do, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so are we gonna look at We're gonna look at a budget then for that, and we set a budget item, and then we'll just address it as a budget item to going forward then. Right? Or what's the plan? Cause you can make a motion that's.
You mean started in 2024 and get it in the budget for 2024?
Right. Is that or what is, if we sign up for it, is it something that we would be putting into the budget for payment in 2024? Even though we might start it now, it's gonna have to go into this budget. I don't know, how that would work. But if this is the route that the committee feels that we should go for,
And looking at our overall budget, it's probably something we could even get in the last couple months of this year.
Okay.
So,
how you wanna proceed?
I'd say, see if you can find one more option, and if this is the best one, then next month we address it at our personnel and finance, and then bring it to the full board after that.
Seems to me too. See if we can whittle down the cost a little bit more even.
All I can do is ask.
Check out one more option move forward.
Looks like a good system. Addresses a few different issues.
So I guess we don't even need to make a motion or anything to table it, or to bring it up for next month. You'll just put it on the agenda, Andrew? Okay. All right, any other thing before we move on?
Sorry to keep the library.
No, that's what I was just gonna try to make a motion here to, move the library report up.
How about we approve the minutes? I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Is there a second?
I've read through them. They seem to be in order.
Yes, I'll second that.
Okay.
Yep.
Motion and second to approve the minutes for August 2nd. Any discussion?
No.
All in favor?
I,
Aye. Opposed? Library report. Sorry to keep you waiting.
Oh, that's fine. It was interesting. Yeah, just give you a report. The library board met last night, and I'm happy to say that they approved a 5-year strategic plan, and that was the strategic plan is based on the 175 community members input. So that's great. We're happy to have all that input, and happy to start making the library into what people are really wanting for Somerset too.
Is that something you're able to send over to us?
For sure, I can. Yep. And it will be on our website. And I also, this one is 15 pages long, but from this one, I'm going to make a summary that will be like 1 or 2 pages. So it'll be a little bit more digestible as well. So, and then in September, we've got lots of events in store. We have, tomorrow night, we have it's called Planning Ahead, but to be more specific about what the program is, we have somebody coming in for 8 Thursdays in September and October, who is going to be talking about kind of your last wishes, getting your estate in order. So just kind of various topics of, just things that your family might be really glad that you did someday for them. That's on Thursdays at 5 o'clock. There is a sign-up sheet and it's free. And you can kind of indicate which ones you're most interested in attending. So that we have an idea.
Is that something we could maybe do? Could we borrow our owl out for that and record it?
You have an owl, don't you?
Could you guys record that and?
I don't have an owl.
Put it on our YouTube channel for everybody to be
Yeah,
able
that
to.
might be, I can definitely ask the presenter about that.
Do we have anything in Thursdays where they could actually use this?
Only planning commission as a first Thursday.
Yeah, and then also we kind of got something for preteens. A rock and crystal swap in the evening. And then I'm really excited. The end of the September here, we'll have a inflatable planetarium getting set up in our young adult area. And that is on a teacher in service day. So we try to provide, when the kids don't have school, some kind of activity, just to keep kids a little bit busier and engaged during that time.
Perfect.
Yeah, so of course, I'm always here and happy to take your feedback and suggestions for the library. I'll look and talk to the presenter if I can get a response about the owl. If about the recording, we have offered this program before too, so it seems like she's pretty willing to keep doing it as well, so that's great. So,
I feel like it's something nobody really wants to talk about, but
Right.
they want to deal with it, they just don't want to talk about it, so I think if you guys
Yeah.
could record something.
yeah.
it'd be much.
Yeah, and perhaps we can, if that doesn't work out, we might be able to just get some handouts and things too, that people
Does she
might be
go
able to.
into like how to put together wills and trusts and things like that, or is it just?
Oh, boy, I don't know how detailed, maybe like what you want to do with your property as far as, I don't know how detailed she gets into those types of things, because she's not a lawyer. But
Okay, anything else?
nope, just let me know if you guys have any feedback or suggestions, and thanks for your work for the village.
Yeah, thank you so much, and yeah, if the owl is an option, that would be fantastic to be able to record that and keep it.
Yeah,
you.
I'll see what I can do.
Okay, thank you. Impact fee report.
Included. So from 8/14 to 8/31 is what has been added since the last meeting. So I think
Say that again. Andrea.
from 8/14 to 8/31, those are all new.
Okay,
2, 4, 6.
We have 8
Mhm.
added.
Yeah.
Any new ones come in at all, or is it just recently didn't get added, or, okay,
No, and then, I spoke with the, impact fee expert with Ellers. And, the first step in either just doing a review of our impact fees and maybe restructuring or doing a whole new needs assessment is a facility assessment. So since we're already doing the facilities assessment with the other company, we're going to do that first. And then once that's done, provide that information, and then we'll look at the impact fees. So that would be on
refresh my memory, what's the timeline for the needs assessment?
the
the facility
the
assessment.
facility assessment. I believe it's 2 months. And we did meet with them, staff here met with them 2 weeks ago.
Before Labor Day?
Yes. And, talked about what we would like to see, and they, took a lot of pictures of the village hall, and all the other facilities, the shop, the treatment plant. We're not sure if they met with fire department yet. They also went in the police department and court as well, so they've started the whole process.
So, yeah, I know we got the water system and everything, and we were just reviewing like with the sewers and parks and all of that kind of stuff, so. I don't know, I understand what the facilities assessment is doing, but will parks and all those others have some kind of a say on that, or is that something that we're gonna be deciding at the personnel? I mean, what's the process of this of adjusting these impact fees? Is it facilities needs, and then we decide, okay, this is what the facility needs, is we're going there,
Yeah.
but then what are we doing with like parks and public safety and stuff, because I know police is on here.
Yeah.
But no, there was no discussion about, you know, I mean, with parks or, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
we got an extensive list of
Okay.
items that, for the streets that we need
Yeah.
to look at.
Yep, so what happens is they do an assessment of what we have, and based on that and the projected growth of the village over a certain amount of time, they predict, based on that growth, you're going to need to include this much more infrastructure facilities, including parks. And then they calculate out how much a projected cost, or what the projected cost would be for a project. And then base it off of that growth. There's a calculation to create an REU, residential equivalent unit. And that's how, like, the parks is what, how much? per-
Zero.
The parks is, oh, they must have taken it out. So, for instance, library is $468 per impact fee. So that,
Well, that was to accomplish something
Yeah.
with the library, that, you know.
Yep,
and
so
that's
they'll
where
do that-
If
they'll
we
do
decide
that
we're gonna
all-
build a, you know, deal, but I didn't know if the roads, you know, you got on your streets 141. Is that something that we'd be looking at, maybe making that adjustment, or does it have to go to board, board approval on that, or is there
Yes.
some? Okay,
there'll be a public hearing, there's a whole process to it, but the board ultimately has to approve the projects that are included to create the impact fee.
understood, okay.
So,
So if we're, okay. There's like $57 for fire, and I
mhm.
know we just bought a pretty extensive, costly tender that's gonna
And
cost
that
us.
wouldn't be covered under impact fees. A vehicle would not be covered. It's expansion of your facility. So, but the tender is already covered under the
Well, yeah,
American Rescue Plan
right,
money.
But he's also talking about looking at another,
Ladder truck.
truck, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Which is gonna run at about $1 million.
Mhm.
So, you know, obviously, you know, that's what I'm trying to figure out, okay, you know, how
So
much
it
we
would
gotta
be
suck.
more to expand their facility so that they can purchase and store those
Rigs,
vehicles.
right, okay.
So,
Is this something that is gonna take a couple months to get through once it's been approved by
mhm,
the projects have been approved by the
mhm.
board? So if we're looking at October before we get anything back for facilities needs,
Right,
then we probably won't be voting on anything until December. And then at the soonest, and then we're talking public hearing in January, and then possibly changes before they start breaking ground in the spring, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's a fair timeline, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Moving right along, department head at meeting report.
so we did meet today. And I did not bring my notes back, but, it was a pretty short meeting, we talked about the 24 budget schedule. If you remember, we went over this a couple months ago. The finance committee meeting to go over the budget, or the budget meeting for finance, is on here for September 27th. Not realizing the joint meeting is also
Same day.
September 27th.
Yeah.
So our suggestion is to move that to October 4th, which is the first Wednesday in October, rather than having two meetings on the 27th.
It's October 4th.
Wednesday, first Wednesday.
First Wednesday. So just a week later.
That gonna put any constraints on us?
It shouldn't, a lot of our state aids, we don't get the numbers
Info.
until
November, late.
closer to the end of September. So it'll give us all an opportunity to plug those numbers in and have a more prepared budget for you guys.
What time?
You guys. can-
Was there any discussion? So, you know, if you go through like different salaries, like, police officer salaries, clerk salaries. When it comes to like the public works guys, it's all jumbled around into different things. Did we discuss kind of trying to fix that?
No, we did not discuss that, and, for auditing purposes and financial reporting, it has to be broken out by,
So this is the way
Different
other cities and municipalities do
it
it.
should be,
It's strange to me, you really tell what's going on for each, item.
Depends what area they're working in.
right, yep. So if Mike's street sweeping, he puts it to street cleaning wages.
Like if a police officer is running radar, there's not a separate item for radar or reports.
That's part of
or-
his whole patrol wage, so. It's, he doesn't have multiple departments that he is working on in one day. He works for the police department, so his wages are one line.
Same with public works, so they work
No.
for public works.
No, actually, they don't.
No,
Public Works is broken out in 3 segments, the sewer, water, and streets.
parts.
And parks, sorry, 4 segments.
Yeah.
So, one guy could be working on, sewer one day and mowing grass the next because the grass needed to be cut and there was no way there to do it.
Mhm.
So those wages would be allocated to that individual on that specific day. But the budget is set up that way so that we can allocate where we want to spend taxpayers' resources more towards city sewer, water, plus we also get revenue for water to offset some of those wages. What the parks and stuff is all taxpayers' dollars, not necessarily user fees related like sewer and water is.
Mhm.
But it is tough to track, I'm not gonna lie.
You should see their time cards. It's the whole- It looks like the budget.
I'm not
And they
gonna
have
lie,
to-
it took me a little while to get through all that myself first year.
Anything else?
We did discuss, if the, board was going to consider going back to work sessions versus the committee meetings, and when it was approved to discontinue the work sessions, it was only for the summer. So that was one question
I myself, I personally like the committee meetings and as opposed to the work sessions. I sat through or zoomed in on all the work sessions last year and all the village board meetings, either in person or by Zoom, and the work sessions didn't seem to cut any time down. They were long and some people like to talk a lot and it really just slowed everything down. In my opinion. I'm only one vote, one voice.
It would be very long meetings. For sure, there's a lot of details to go over, but same time, then you only have to come in for that one meeting instead of the 2 or 3 throughout the month. I can see pros and cons to both. What did Public Works think?
Pardon?
Public Works, what did you guys decide?
What did
for
public
work
safety
sessions
decide?
versus committee.
I was
We
waiting
didn't
to
discuss
hear.
that,
You didn't
No,
discuss it?
I lost my
right?
connection when I was trying to ask them. about it.
Oh, okay.
I was not.
Public Works decided to hold off until next year. Because the suggestion was that it probably makes more sense if we were gonna do it to start next year, because we're still finalizing everything up for this year and getting kind of to settle down. Next year, Public Works isn't gonna be as busy as this year. We're kind of, we don't have a lot of budgeted items, so we're gonna kind of tapping the brakes on it. There's gonna be general maintenance, but there's no big construction projects, so, you know, if we were going to do it next year, it would be the year to do it, because we would have that opportunity to not be running over an hour and a half every meeting, and I don't know what public safety is doing.
So would the consensus be to address it in 2024 and make a decision then?
So can I just go to the full board instead of each committee,
But
because then all of you are there and you can all decide at the same time.
well, I guess,
2024.
from the personnel and finance, I'd like to make a motion that we,
It's not on even though,
Oh.
so,
good enough?
yeah, I'll just say consensus to hold off till next year.
Anything else, Andrea, from the, no?
If there was, I forgot now.
2023,
I got a question for department heads. Did you guys discuss anything as far as, you know, potential for, the budgets for next year's, wages and, increases or anything like that? When do you guys normally do that?
Normally finance will say, this is what we wanna do, whether it's an across the board cost of living adjustment, or if you wanna do individual amounts.
Is it so it's discussed here then?
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah, we don't come up with them.
no, okay.
2023 budget to date and fund balances.
I did include the concert, budget in here
Did
as
that
well.
include the final concert as well?
No. Well, maybe. No, that was just paid out. But at the public safety meeting, EJ was there to discuss a review of the events for this season and, I was also on discussing, their lack of payment. Live Nation, we've only been paid for one concert, and that was the June concert, and I was told that Live Nation is a major corporation and they have, they're set up as far as how they pay things, so ultimately, they've been out of compliance with the conditional use permit from day one. As far as paying an estimate ahead of time and then paying, the final bill, EJ suggested that he pays based on the estimate, but he can write checks within so many days of the event for next year. But I think it's something that needs to be talked about more.
Can you, I could probably pull it up, but it'll take me a minute. Can you, for board meeting, put that on the agenda and then, also put in the ICUP so we can look at it in the packet? And, I will reach out to EJ and Live Nation and try to get that taken care of. Do you know approximate numbers of?
Well, the last one was over 8,000 and then there's two other, well, this is, we've spent 20,000 and that doesn't include paying the fire department. And we've only,
We should not-
collected 10.
We should not be waiting for the money for this long.
No, and I was kind
Hold on
of
a
disappointed in
second.
his.
You said you
his
spent
response about
20,000?
It's a big
You said you spent,
corporation.
sorry, I don't wanna talk over you.
Yeah, that's okay.
No,
We spent 20,000,
but it doesn't include the fire department?
correct. We bill for the fire department. And then they pay us and we pay the fire department. What? They
Okay, cause
have-
that 2023 actual, so fire department expense of 5,000 of that 20,000, right?
Yep, because they paid for the one concert.
Oh,
So once I get paid, then I give the fire department their share.
so that would fall
They're
on
sitting and waiting.
on the budget then? We would be seeing those
Well,
expenses of the fire
Not,
department?
not on our budget, but it's,
Well, if we're paying them, where's it coming from?
We haven't paid the fire
Oh,
department, they're
we haven't.
waiting.
Oh,
Only
Because
the
Live
first
Nation
check.
has-
Right,
Live Nation paid for the first concert, and it's really nice of the
so
fire.
the fire department's
to
been waiting
Wait
for,
to get
paid.
paid.
yes, yeah. Yep,
Oh,
So technically, they're supposed to put down a $5,000 deposit, is that right?
and they did do that.
Okay. Okay, so when you said they're out of compliance with the ICUP, is that because they're behind? paying
Mhm.
those fees? Okay.
is it 5,000 per event, or is it 5,000 for the
it's-
season?
It's 5,000 for the season.
When do we review the ICP?
I think it's coming up in December, January. Yeah.
Usually it's usually
They
January.
want it sooner because they're already booking events for next
I
year.
think they have like 8 booked for next year.
Um,
Can you come up with a kind of what we should have received for this year?
mhm,
And then maybe we can put that as a deposit for next year, so we're not waiting on any
Right.
money.
Well, I'm curious if they got so much, if they got a event. I'd like to know, they should be putting a deposit down for each event, not just a blanket.
right,
Because if they're not gonna fall in line, and I'm saying they, meaning I don't know who we're talking about here, but anybody that comes in, if they're gonna do something, they have to pay a fee for that specific event.
right,
And so if they're gonna do multiple events, then they have to pay multiple fees.
Yeah.
You know,
Or a big fee at the beginning. of the
or a
year.
big fee at the beginning of the year based on that, but it could be,
yeah.
that could be a
So
substantial.
that was the idea with the estimate. I get estimates of what the costs are going to be for fire and police.
Okay,
And then they are supposed to pay that 15 days prior to the event.
Is
That,
there,
Which-
I don't,
They have
we have,
not
and we
paid.
don't have any penalties in place on the ICP.
Okay.
The
I
ICP
don't
used to be,
believe so.
I don't think so either. It used to be pages and pages, and now it's like a page and a quarter. I mean,
It's like 6 pages. yeah.
but it's nothing compared to what it used to be.
Right, so that was kind of, the estimate, Donnie, was kind of set up for that as their like deposit for
Right.
each event.
but that estimate, that deposit they put down was 5,000, which I'm hearing. We've
We're over that.
done that in the first event, it sounds like, 'cause if we're at 20,000 already to date, was
Yeah.
that one concert or? is that
Two,
Two concerts,
like,
3 concerts,
3 concerts.
so
Yeah.
basically in essence about 7,000 a concert,
Mm,
6,500.
Are you able to send us out something in like a Google Drive where we can all kind of make
I'll
edits,
have Tasia do that.
live edits to
Iron
it, and then,
Google Docs.
yeah, if we can all have like a working document to. That way, we all have our ideas, we can put it together in a working document.
Okay, so you want me to have the event
The ICP. Put in,
on village board?
yeah, and then we can send it as a Google Doc that we can all edit.
And EJ did say the invoices have been approved. That was his response.
Great. We'll say that when it comes to the conditional use permit.
But there's gotta be some teeth in it too, that if they're not paying in time, because we shouldn't have our fire department guys waiting, the village should be waiting,
Right.
because if. Worst comes to worst, and not that Live Nation's gonna like split town, we don't wanna get. If something does happen, we don't wanna be holding the bag, and.
Yeah.
And I think Live Nation made like 6 billion or something last year. I mean,
I think they can cover it.
I think they can cover it, but.
Well, the taxpayer shouldn't be on the hook for anything. you know,
No,
at this point.
exactly.
Exactly.
And if that's gonna, I mean, they bring revenue to town, but that shouldn't mean that Joe Blow over here has to deal with the noise and paying their
traffic.
taxes and everything else because they're coming to town. And so I'm all for making them guys right.
I would like to see what some of the other venues do. I know before, they used to charge like say $1.50 per ticket, and that would go to the police department or the village. I would like to do something and partner with Live Nation to be able to do things that help our community, that help Joe Blow taxpayer, like, with the
Right.
parks and, put up more basketball hoops or help maintain whatever it is to beautify the village, would
Most
like that.
municipalities, like, you know, so for Target Center and stuff like that, talking with a lot of the people downtown in that, they put up, use tax, like a sales tax. So everybody coming into town
Right.
is getting taxed
Right,
extra for that. That's
When I
why it
paid-
costs you $20 for a beer at a Twins game, you know,
Right.
because you're paying that extra tax. You know, you can do it and handle it in different types of ways, whether it be a per ticket, you know, dollar per ticket deal or a tax. You can make up that revenue however you want, if that's the way you wanna go.
Andrea, is there somebody in the village that could kind of do some research on that would have time to
Mhm.
see what some other places do and?
Yep.
That would be
Like
great.
Cadott, for example, they bring that, their big,
Mhm.
deal is Country Fest, right?
Yeah, yep.
And there's a significant per, you know, that would be a great place to look at as a rural area, as how they're funding and,
You know,
how it's all paid out, you know, because it's really well run and it's really well received by the community.
yeah, and I would definitely be for whatever helps the Joe Blow taxpayer out and helps our community. I'm all for it. Yeah, if you could work on that, that'd be fantastic.
Otherwise, there isn't much to report on the budget.
It's actually, it looks like we're in pretty good shape
Mhm.
for this year. I just saw, you know, there were some things. If anybody else has any, oh, it sounds like the building inspector services are already 104% of budget, you know.
So we kind of, at budget time, we just keep it conservative as far as, the revenues and expenses for the building inspector. So if you look, in the revenues for building permit fees, they're $22,000 over what we budgeted in revenue. So that's going to reflect in the expenses as well. So they're not really over budget
Okay.
because they're covered by the revenues.
In other words, you're making more in revenue to offset their additional, expenditures.
Yeah.
Hence, additional building permits for the year.
Right.
Hence, they're gonna be inspecting.
Yeah, exactly.
Perfect.
So, but it balances itself out.
And this is under the revenue side, but the, refuse and garbage collection,
Mhm.
why is our revenue share up over projected budget?
So
Nothing.
that is what we collect on the utility bills.
Yeah.
And then, that gets paid out to Olson. So with all the new construction, you have new customers coming on, so then they jump or bump up.
Okay.
It's kind of the same thing. You don't really wanna, you don't wanna assume that you're going to collect a whole bunch and then you don't.
Does the village, we collect anything off that, or basically everything
We
we
do.
collect,
There's I believe it's $1
per can or per household, or,
per, yeah. I'd have to double check the ordinance, but I'm pretty sure. It's $1 or $1.50 per customer per month. So,
Can I back up to the building,
Yeah.
Is that building permit fees also include the escrow amounts that are
No.
in there? Is that a different line item?
it's not even in the budget. It goes into, escrow account. So
Right.
we won't
Okay.
reflect it in there.
So it's not shown at all
Correct.
on the back end, or will it be
Right.
shown on there?
No, it's in the assets. basically.
Because eventually they're going to be, if they need to
Mhm.
pay for putting a tree in or whatever the case or
Then
grading.
it'll go in,
So then it
to
would
cover
go
that
in
cost.
and it would just offset it off of that escrow account?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
so at the end, with that reconciliation showing what you have as far as balances, will that be in there someplace under that reconciliation?
I could add it in.
Probably would
The,
hurt.
the fund balance is, basically the money in the bank,
Sure,
kind of. Not all the money in the bank, but, for general operations.
You,
because that would show a sweep then.
Yeah.
Pulling it over,
Mhm.
so we could kind of see what's sitting in that.
Yep.
As far as if, we, you know, if next year, say
Yep.
we get dinged, if we need to adjust that amount or not, so.
Right, yep. Yeah, I can add that. Or I can just give you a report, like the impact fee report. Which would show. Who paid,
If we got it all together
yeah.
at the end,
Mhm.
I mean, there's a lot of other fees that people bought, you know, for that, you know, so I just, cause that's something that we hold in escrow until.
Yep.
Until they've satisfied the requirements of the building inspector, and then it's either paid back to them or.
Or
we
used.
Or we use it.
Yep.
I'm more curious, cause it's kind of arbitrarily set that number,
Mhm.
and I'm more curious as to if that's enough, or if it's too much. Cause, you know, if you don't wanna be taking more than you have to, but you also wanna make sure you're not taking to the bank either.
Andrew, is there an option if it's a fund that hasn't been used in a long time? And say you don't wanna take it off the books, if it's a, say like the canine fund that hasn't been around, or all these other things that have been zeros for years, is there a way just to run the report without all those old ones
Yeah.
in there?
Yeah, I can do that.
Is anybody else for that? So just kind of clear out.
I think we
some of the
got rid
old
of a
stuff.
couple of those buckets last year, didn't we?
We did.
Well, I'm not
Last
saying,
year when I was talking to her, I said, can we get rid of this? And she said, yeah, so, you know, I mean, like, if you're looking on the first page, there's like 16 items here that.
right, just if it hasn't been
used,
zero, well.
Yep.
I don't think we have to
Especially
pull
like the
those out there.
tax levies, do we need them anymore on there?
The special assessments.
Yeah, for 190th spring
Yeah,
and such.
no, we don't, yeah. Yep, I'll run it with, exclude zero. Lines. I think I can do that.
Awesome, that just would, I think, clean it up a lot. Let's see, legal tax.
So for instance, last year, the St. Anne's Church bought a property that was being taxed, but St. Anne's is tax exempt, so they got a tax bill. So we paid it.
Let's call
Illegal
that the
tax.
legal tax,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
It's all caps too, so it's be important.
yeah. So it stands out.
You're right. All right, 7B, unfinished, moving back to unfinished business, discussion, possible recommendation, conducting business on village property.
I included in the packet here, the email from Carl, which I gave to Donnie. Did you have a
You
chance?
absolutely did.
Okay,
Confirm that you provided it to me. So, I have not talked, to Paul about this yet because I was going to, and, I got, busy with my full-time job, so. But if you read this email, I guess what he's looking at is, we had discussed of doing conducting business on village property as far as that permanent merchant. And he said that that's two different things. A permanent merchant is, different than, like what we're talking about with, or what's going on with, if we were to rent a spot or use of village property or people to conduct village property, business on village property.
so he's offering to clean up our ordinance, cause it said something in here about,
You'd
the,
look to change the
the
definition of a permanent merchant under the code as written on new
Yeah.
businesses, not considered permanent unless it's operated for a year, but he said except, what is it, during, special events authorized by the village?
yeah,
does, you know. Okay, for example, they're just talking about having this event in October where they're going to have, you know, individuals doing, you know, they're gonna have, they want. Sounds like they want several different industries or businesses. It's kind of like booster, a shot in the arm of, hey, we're open, let's give a shot in the arm for the chambers trying to get people to come into town and you know, support the businesses that have been starving all summer because of the bridge being closed. Well, those individuals are gonna be doing, and they've been here, you know, but what if Joe Blow comes into town and wants to put a food truck in town? They have to get a special permit, right?
Like the taco person last week, he had a direct sellers
Exactly.
license.
And
for
that confirms
one
that
day.
that confirms that he's up to code with his health department
Yep,
and everything, so that they're not just coming into town getting people sick.
right.
Right, so that was the intent of it. Now, an individual like, you know, we have that coffee shop, that's a separate issue. If we're gonna start allowing space for people to utilize and do business on, you know, village property, you know, I think there should be something lined out rather than just having an insurance, you know, and liability protection for the village, but also, you know, if anybody comes and sells on the street, they have to get a permit.
Mhm.
And they did get a permit, but now they're taking up physical space
Right.
on our property. And if that's the case, then I think what he's stating is, you know, some kind of a written lease or license agreement between the owner and the business containing such as rent, term of use, and insurance and liability protections for the village. Now, that was a private business operating on a private property prior to the village taking it over, and we kind of tried to work with them to you know, reach out and say, what would you like to do? What would you be interested to do? No different than anybody else. And we haven't gotten any farther than that first initial conversation. So I think at this point in time,
May, June, July, August, September.
I take into consideration that the bridge has put a significant, you know, impact on them, and I wasn't trying to go after, you know, I was like, I understand everything happening and, you know, taking into consideration everything that will go around them, but anybody else coming into town would be like, hey, you know, at what point in time are we saying that this is kind of the standard quo, is that you can come into town for 6 months if they're building a bridge and we can let you operate at the park and not have to pay anything for it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where I think the residents would want to see something done on that. So I think, you know, maybe an ordinance or something to that effect, if you're gonna come in and do business on that, it needs to be, you know, authorized and approved and, you know, you can't do it unless you do have it authorized or approved. And right now,
Written lease.
yeah, I mean, so otherwise anybody's gonna be in here doing it. And I think, you know, we don't want that to happen with, I think taxpayers would be like, listen, you know.
Protect the taxpayers, I think we need a contract, right? I don't think we need to be making tons of money off of them because they're certainly valuable business, but to be fair to everybody, we should have things, you know,
In the same aspect, it would be no different than, you know, Holiday saying, well, why can't we set up over here and do something, you know, we're paying our taxes in our area. And, you know, and for our space, property tax and everything, and we're not being treated the same, so if we wanna, you know, that. Everybody's gotta play by the same set of rules, so I think, you know, really that we need to put an ultimate, you know, a deadline on this to get it done, and I'd make a motion that we, I don't know if we can. I'd make a motion that we put, upgrade our ordinances to reflect that, that there needs to be a lease agreement for anyone utilizing, or an agreement with the village for anybody utilizing village property.
Mhm. You wanna also define a permanent merchant versus transient merchant? Wasn't that one of the things you said in
Yeah,
here?
transient merchant is somebody that comes in and sells for the time being
Right.
at a, like, what, $30 or whatever,
Mhm.
but they could sell for forever on that $30, right? Until they've
It's
been
only
here for a
good
year.
For a year,
And then they gotta get another,
they gotta get another one
and so a permanent merchant is somebody that's been here for a year or more?
that has operated for at least 1 year. So he's saying in here to define a permanent merchant.
Well, my motion is to
Sorry.
deal with the, individuals, businesses conducting business on village property. And my motion was that any business conducting, business on village property needs to have permission from the village before doing it.
And not a lease or some kind of license.
Either a lease or, and if that entails a lease, in which we can address under a permanent merchant agreement, or a license or something or a lease agreement, or a license, or a permit for that matter, but it can't continue. Right now, we don't have anything that allows that, that prevents that from happening
Mhm.
in our current ordinances.
Andrew, can you read the motion back and then we'll see if there's a second?
Update ordinance to be able to conduct business on village property must have approval from the village and possible like lease agreement.
Either via license and or permit.
From the village?
Yeah, license, lease, or permit, I would say that'd be the best thing to do, and then we can define what those items are.
Motion on the table, is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
I,
All right, we'll go to the full village board that way. First, we kind of talked about the impact report, but I'm looking at the impact fees for Somerset compared to Hammond, February. Did you guys see these? Where our impact fees were charging $1,940. Hammond is at 5,600. Star Prairie's at 1,500. Osceola 2,600. Village of Baldwin 3,400. Roberts is over 5,000.
So some of those also include, like, you can see in the next to that. They have the water and sewer included in their impact fee versus where we have sewer separate.
Oh, I got you. So
So our sewer hookup is $17.53, and then the impact fee is $19.40. Where Hammond, theirs is $56.50, but the sewer
They don't
hookup
have
is
that.
part of their impact fee.
so we don't actually have we didn't total these all up yet per se,
Right.
so you gotta kind of do it in your head.
okay,
Yeah,
2030, we're at like 3,700.
so then. Roberts,
Roberts is the high one at
5,000.
5,050.
Yeah.
And then.
but then they only charge $10 for sewer hookup.
And I suppose they're saying, okay, once you're hooked up, then it's no different than like XL Energy running your power out there for
Mhm.
free, but then they're charging you every month.
Yeah, there was she did include a whole long explanation as far as if it's a development, there may be a possible interceptor fee, and then if it's this many lots, it's this amount, and it's like.
I think it would be nice to be more in line with some of these other places Hammond is, 5,900.
We have to take a look at what each municipality is also doing. Certain municipalities are growing, some are stagnant, some are small, and they need that because they had to put a new water system in,
Well, we're
So
growing and
if you're looking at one that's growing with, comparable New Richmond or City of Hudson and what they've done and where they're at,
Mhm,
really, because New Richmond's got development still going in
mhm,
and growing. Hudson's pretty much built out,
yeah.
so Roberts, they're starting to grow or growing.
Baldwin is growing quite a bit too. I mean. Well, but again,
It's good information to
it's
have.
good information to
right.
have.
And did you,
But you have to also. You can keep that kind of comparable, but you have to remember that it's based on what we're predicting our growth is
Needs
going to be, and
assessments.
what we're going to need for For that
Feasibility assessment, right?
Yeah.
Did you come up with all this? Put together all this?
Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah, exactly what we were looking.
So is this something,
Usually Osceola, she said, can you share whatever you get back, because we're looking at our fees right now, so,
Does your,
say, $500?
yeah.
does your printer have any bigger font?
I can send you the Excel file if that would be there.
Yeah, I'm getting to the point, we're real soon here, so,
Have to be 11 by 17 paper then.
okay, well, thank you very much for doing that.
So question on that, as long as we're looking at the village fee schedule, is this something that we would look at maybe in a, like a work session to go over or something and come up with recommendations to the full board
Well,
on some of these fees to, you know,
Yeah.
really kind of review it with us and, or is this something that we have to take up at this?
well, and I think we're pretty much in line on our other fees. Like for instance, plan commission fees. We're pretty much in line with what other municipalities are charging, special meeting requests, or, you know, it varies between 200 to 250. There's.
Direct sellers were way out of line, yeah.
Yeah, and, the operator license. So bartender licenses, a lot of municipalities charge $40, but then some of them, issue it for 2 years versus ours is 1. And then dog licenses, I thought we were maybe a little low. The highest is 20 for, male or female, and then 12 for spayed or neutered. We're charging 10 and 5.
And that's per year?
Yes,
Starburst
However-
is the same, Osceola's $5.
it's hard enough to get people to license their dogs. If we bump it up too much, they may just say, well, I'm not gonna license it at all, and then run the risk of it getting loose and.
I would be in
Pick that
favor of
up.
making it, and in like River Falls, I had the bar down there, it was a 2-year license there
For operating.
for operators.
Mhm.
I would be in favor of that for dogs too, because then people are, they're not using up as much as your time either,
Mhm.
you know, if it's every 2 years.
I'll have to check with the county, because it's a statute.
It is.
So I don't know if
It's
we
gotta be
can
annual.
extend it to 2 years. So I'll check on that. But I'm all for the operators being
2 years,
a 2-year license.
and maybe throw it up to $50 and it's 2 years instead.
Well, right now we charge 10 plus the $7 investigation fee.
Oh, and then maybe go to 40.
Hudson's $50 every 2 years,
River Falls.
New Richmond's 40 every 2, so,
Yeah,
you know, I mean, if you put it up in line with every 2 years, you're at 17, so you'd be at maybe 40, you know,
Yeah.
for every 2, you'd be right in line with New Richmond.
Yeah.
Do
So
you-
maybe
would that
it's-
include splitting out the background fee and everything, or does it
Mhm.
have to be done annual?
no, I think if we make the 2 years, it would just be,
Background check every 2 years then?
Yeah.
Okay, I'd be in favor of that. But you know, like the sign permits,
mhm.
or, you know,
Those are set by the, building
Building
inspector.
right,
So if you look at this is our actual fee schedule that we go off of right now versus this scrunched up. So if you want to, you can make a motion to change some of these now.
Oh, we do have it as possible recommendation.
Yep.
We can make motions.
So the maximum on cigarette licenses per the state is $100, we're charging 50.
I'd like to table this till next month.
Okay,
And just because we just got the information.
Yep.
I wanna review it, I wanna look it over, I wanna chew on it a little bit, and
Sure.
then I think making a motion next month that comes in line with our revenue, with our budget and everything too.
We have a work session coming up for. Let's refresh my memory, we're gonna do a work session.
For budget.
No, for something else, for something with MSA and our 5-year or comprehensive plan
Oh, did that come from planning commission?
from the planning commission.
I wasn't there.
That's why.
That's why I would.
Yeah.
So I guess whenever that's gonna be, maybe we can, like you said, instead of having a separate work session, if that works out to do it with the comprehensive plan, if we can throw it in there while everybody's gonna be together, so just a thought.
So does somebody wanna second Donnie's motion to table?
Move the table till next month.
To next month, yeah, yes, second that.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
New business, discussion.
Yeah, there's nothing on investment.
No.
Well, we got one
Discuss
for
and
R&D.
discussion possible, possible police officer vacancy. I know, I believe it's gonna be on the full board, I'm still trying to gather information. Right now, we're from 1998 to 2019, there was 5 full-timers, and 2019 added another full-timer to 6, 2021, I think, went to 7 full-time officers. And then, with the recent vacancy a few months ago, went back down to 6. The school has cut $1.4 million from their budget, and as a result, cut funding for the school liaison or school resource officer position from what was like $47,000 a year to $10,000 to $15,000 a year. And from basically a full-time position in the school to they're willing to pay up to 8 hours per week of the school year. At a meeting with Shannon Donnelly, and I spoke with village, or not village, but school board representative Bruce Pelargin at length about it. They're all for trying to get a school resource officer position more full-time in the future if the budget allows. But as it sits right now, that's what, 10 to 15,000 is about the best they can do. I said, well, if we're partners on this, we should probably look at, if you're willing to pay for 8 hours a week and we're partners on it, then the village should try to pony up, for another at least 8 hours
Or 32.
per week. What's that?
It's Sergeant Farrell who is covering the school, so we're paying him for his regular schedule, and then part of it he's spending at the school. So
Right.
we're paying 32 hours for him to be there 8 hours. So
Yeah, but and he's
I think we're
He's not
putting in
there
our fair share.
full-time, and then the question is it, if we're paying, say, 75% to 85% of the officer, is that money best spent in the school 40 hours a week, or is it better utilized partly in the school and partly on the village streets, or partly in investigations, it's kind of a tough thing, and if we just have to figure out where this extra money is gonna come from if we do decide to fill this 7th officer position. Joel, Chief Trupchek had a wonderful email. I haven't had time to respond to it, but he really kind of lays it out. It's not like it used to be, 25 years ago when I started as a police officer here, we would have 15 to 20 part-time officers helping out, and I even talked at length with Sheriff Knudsen, and it's not just hard to find part-time officers. It's very, very difficult to even get applicants for full-time officers right now. It's not a sought-after position. I kind of want some more information before making a decision to where is this money gonna come from if we do decide to fill this seventh officer position, and where is that deficit of, say, $50,000 going to come from, you know? So that's gonna be my response or my email back to the chief, and like, is he able to
Well,
absorb it in his
that
budget at all,
discussion
or-
for this one though is, it's just discussion for police officer vacancy.
Mhm.
There's no recommendation or
Right.
anything like
Yeah,
that.
this
So
is
are we having is there a recommendation? I believe that public safety had already discussed this and made a recommendation, did they not?
To continue vetting officers, yes, but then we're discussing it at the full board.
With the intention of filling that position though, I think is what, the way I understood it from watching
Public
you know,
safety's leaning
public
that
safety.
way, yes. I would say so, yeah.
And there's a reason for that. It was discussed at public safety.
The reason
To fill
to fill the position, well, to keep the public safe.
Yeah,
You
well,
know, maintain the current staffing.
but it's needed, is it? It's not like I think what is coming from public safety is we, as a committee, need to figure out where we can find the money to fund that officer position.
Yes.
Is what I'm
That's
hearing
what
from
comes down
public safety.
Numbers, yes.
So I know what you're saying, Mike, and I appreciate that, your comments on that, and there's, you know, from a former chief, I can hear what you're saying, I'm also hearing what Joel is saying, and I can look at the data too, we've had, you know, we're up in calls. Now, I don't know what the status of them calls are, I was kind of hoping that that he was gonna, I almost have to show up at a public safety meeting to ask questions like that, but
Mhm.
reality is we're looking at about
Calling.
35,000. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, call.
Oh, and I can tell you, I did get the call numbers from dispatch, and since 2019 on, they have changed their way of logging calls.
Mhm.
So anytime even they do a roll call every hour, that gets down as a call now. So the numbers are, they're not apples to apples anymore, they're apples to oranges, so.
So really, what, you know, and he's made a very good comment here, is that the village of Somerset needs to make up an estimated $34,000 to cover staffing levels of 2024. So 34,000 is where he's looking at, so that budget would probably remain stagnant for, you know, because they had a surplus, because they didn't spend everything, because they're short on officers, so there's gonna be a surplus of the budget, but that doesn't just automatically roll into next year, everybody gets in the table and fights for everything.
Yeah.
So next year, we're gonna still have that same thing, plus whatever contractual increase. What is the contract increase for next year?
3%.
So we're looking at 3% in 2024 in addition to that, so 34,000 plus 3%.
And
Looking at
there's
about
six-
35,000.
You know, it's just not in my head, it's not an easy decision, because once you do fill that position, then it's not really going back from that, as far as like, okay, we're gonna lay this guy off because we don't have the money for it.
And I honestly have kind of looked at this I don't think we're going back. The village is growing. We're getting more and more individuals in this area. You know, we need to look at that from a facility needs standpoint or something. We need to find that money to make sure that our citizens are safe and that we got people in town like that. I'm not trying to be grandstanding on this. I look at it as our calls of service are starting to grow up, that because we're increasing as a village. I don't think 3 officers is the way to go, but at least filling that one is probably something we need to really look at, and we need to figure out where we can come up with that money creatively. You know, so that we don't have problems with, you know, I mean, we're growing in the TID districts, we're developing up there, we're expanding our horizons quite a bit, Mike, and you know, we gotta look at that. Unfortunately, that comes at a cost.
Yeah, and I'm definitely not opposed to it, I just wanna make sure that we're doing what's right
Right.
for the taxpayers.
What really sucks is that we have to make the tough decision, because the school had to make a tough decision, but we're gonna have to make that decision. And I gotta look and engage on these budget numbers a little bit more to see, you know, unless I'm all ears, if somebody can see something that.
I do know that, our shared revenues are going up. There was legislation passed where all municipalities are receiving more in shared revenues from the state than previous, so I don't know what the number is. But I know it's a significant increase,
Right.
That's good news.
so. So I
Other,
mean,
and other
there's
than that,
ways.
are we sitting in good standing so we can like, so this isn't gonna be some big problem come
No.
budget time?
And it was already, the seventh position was already budgeted for in 2023, so it's not going to be a huge increase on the tax levy, except for the
Schools.
portion that is being contributed.
About 34 grand, 35,
Yeah,
45.
well, 35.
no, because it's only like
Yeah, it was like
40-some thousand now,
Oh, yeah, it's like 45 down to 15.
Right.
whatever,
Yeah.
so, yeah.
Well, 35.
so
Okay,
that,
well, that makes me feel better about it.
So you're saying shared revenues might be up a little bit where we could absorb that cost then?
correct.
Okay, well. We'll dig into that a little bit deeper on that, but I'm leaning more and more towards if you're thinking shared revenues are up on that.
Yeah.
That we can still fill that position. I think that's the route I'd be leaning in.
So, yeah, as part of our discussion, I'm not exactly sure what the timeline is for training, but if we could get somebody that I said was offered, hired and trained in and ready to work by his or herself by spring when it starts to get busy for summer. So that way it's, kicking the can down the road just a little more into 2024. Beginning of 2024, we have enough time to be able to get more applicants in, get them vetted, get them somebody hired, get them field trained and get them on their own by summer.
That's tough because we have good applicants right now. So they're not gonna be there. Those positions are filled so quickly and I would hate to lose a good candidate.
Well, what did Joel say to the one or two? There were 6 that were going to get interviewed and one got hired before they even got the
Right.
interview,
Exactly right.
so.
That's tough for everybody right now.
That's, yeah, it's-
Market the way it is.
Yes.
I'm totally, if you're leaning more towards that, we're gonna get a little more cost sharing that we can make up that revenue. You're gonna get my support on it too,
Yeah.
because my only thing.
Have that number within the next 2 weeks.
Okay, my only thing is that we just gotta make sure that, that we're gonna be able to cover that cost.
Right.
Agreed.
Is it possible to use this year's surplus towards next year? This is just not working.
Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way for
Okay.
accounting purposes, I think, right?
Well, the bad part is if there's money in that pool, it's like, oh, you gotta use it. And if we could, yeah, I'd rather give it back to the taxpayers and just like blow it on something just to get it out of that fund is my opinion on it, but, so
Well,
I'm all in favor of filling that position as well, as long as we can afford it. That's been my concern and I wanna be right by the taxpayers and
I'm glad we had this discussion and we know that there's something coming up from tax levies are gonna be, if the state's freeing up more money for the municipalities, then I think that'll be a lot easier discussion next week.
Correct.
perfect. Anything else on the police officer vacancies then? What timeline is Joel looking at getting somebody on right now?
He's waiting for word from us,
From the board.
from the board, I should say. Yes. But I would like to say that it would be really important for officer retention also to have this 7th position, because otherwise they're just pulling their hair out and trying to, cover shifts has been difficult, between sick and vacation and military leave. And I just think it's important to really keep our officers happy because it's a really competitive market. We hate to lose them to other communities.
Sounds good to me.
Okay.
Future agenda items?
Let's table tonight.
Yeah, the one, the fee schedule and the tracking. What about,
GPS.
thank you.
And the most important.
Move to adjourn.
For a second,
I'll second that.
discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion, meeting ends at 9:05 PM, exactly 2 hours. Thank you.